The story begins when a beautiful woman named Victoria is talking to her neighbor, Julie. Victoria works at a cafe, and her coworker, Shelby, often talks about her romantic life with her husband, Chris. Victoria, still single, constantly changes boyfriends and often says she's looking for the right man for her life. Around that time, she meets a young and successful man named R, who plans to invite her to his company's party at a city hotel in a few weeks. In the next scene, a man named Jason is introduced. He's recently moved to the city. Jason, a former construction worker, now works as the director of a church charity that builds free homes for those in need. Despite being new in town, Jason has become friends with one of the locals, Chris, Shelby's husband. Victoria becomes interested in Jason, but he doesn't pay any attention to her, even when she tries to seduce him. Because of this, Victoria decides to volunteer for the home building project. She shares the idea with her sister, Joy. At first, Joy doesn't believe she's serious, thinking Victoria is more interested in chasing men than in doing any real help. As Joy had guessed, Victoria eventually admits that the only reason she wants to join the project is her interest in Jason. Knowing her sister has no experience with construction or tools, Joy is surprised. Jason holds a meeting for the volunteers to kick off the project. In the middle of the meeting, Victoria suddenly walks in without any notice, distracting Jason as she keeps staring at him and trying to grab his attention. After the meeting, Victoria tries once again to talk to Jason and strike up a conversation, hoping she might get him to ask her out. But Chris joins their conversation and realizes that Victoria is more interested in Jason than in helping with the project. The next day, as work begins, Chris advises Jason to let go of his ex-fiancée, Rachel. Meanwhile, Jason finds himself distracted again by Victoria's presence. Chris warns him to be careful, mentioning he's heard Victoria is more into chasing men than doing charity work. Remembering Joy's words, Victoria buys some construction tools, but Jason quickly realizes they're not enough for the job. So he asks a woman named Megan to help gather the proper supplies for Victoria, since it's obvious she's a complete beginner in this field. Following Jason's instructions, Megan asks a man named what to lend Victoria a vest. Victoria quickly realizes that Megan has a crush on What, which leads Megan to finally open up. She's been in love with him for several years. When Megan discovers that Victoria knows nothing about construction, she asks her to help hammer in a window frame, since, in Megan's opinion, it's the simplest task in the whole project. Victoria never imagined she'd have to do something like that, especially since her only reason for volunteering was to get closer to Jason. Now that she knows about Megan's feelings, Victoria intentionally shifts the conversation toward her relationship with What. Megan explains that they're just friends, nothing more. That's when Victoria offers to teach Megan how to win What's heart, in exchange for Megan teaching her some basic carpentry skills. Along with the basics of construction, Victoria lets Megan wear her perfume to help boost her confidence around What. Megan finally gathers the courage to act on Victoria's advice, but what neither of them expects is that What is allergic to the perfume. The incident leaves Victoria feeling guilty. The next day, Victoria tells her sister Joy how hard it is to build a house while trying to get closer to Jason at the same time. But suddenly, an idea comes to her. She should learn the basics of carpentry to have a real excuse to talk to him. After doing some research online, Victoria returns to the construction site. This time, she brings her own tools instead of borrowing from Megan. Luckily, she gets a chance to be alone with Jason and immediately starts talking about the construction techniques she's just learned. A few weeks later, a woman named Elena arrives at the site with her 2 young daughters. They're the ones who will be living in the house once it's finished. Elena, who recently separated from her husband, is in desperate need of shelter and is deeply grateful for the home. Seeing Elena's situation brings back childhood memories for Victoria of when her own parents divorced and their mother struggled to raise her and Joy alone. She thanks Victoria for helping someone she doesn't even know. Later, during a video call with her sister, Victoria tells Joy about Elena and her daughters. This leads the 2 sisters to reminisce about their childhood. But right after the call ends, a car crashes into Victoria's house, causing major damage. After the accident, Victoria decides to stay at her sister's place for a while. There, she realizes that her nieces are upset about their father leaving, and she also learns that Joy is planning to divorce her husband. This makes Joy feel a deep sense of regret, realizing she hasn't been paying enough attention to her marriage. A few days later, Jason unexpectedly shows up at Victoria's workplace, worried about her. Victoria finally opens up to him about her sister's divorce and the accident that happened to her home. Besides being concerned for Victoria, Jason has some bad news to share. Elena has to move into her new home earlier than planned. Coincidentally, at that very moment, Victoria spots 3 of her neighbors. The next day, she returns to the construction site with several of them, elderly and experienced individuals, to introduce them as volunteers. With the help of these seniors, construction progresses much faster, and both Jason and Chris greatly benefit from their involvement. Afterward, Victoria asks Jason to come by her house to see the damage. Jason agrees and tells her he truly believes God protected her and saved her from the accident. Once inside, Jason opens up about his past. He was once engaged to a woman named Rachel, but she left him for another man. Heartbroken, Jason decided to leave that town. Eventually, a church in his new city offered him a position as director of a charitable housing organization. When Victoria gets ready to return to her sister's house, Jason invites her to a church event that's happening on Saturday. She happily agrees, but then suddenly remembers she also promised to attend his company's party on the same day. When Joy hears about this, she suggests that Victoria should go with Jason. But Victoria is torn. She doesn't want to hurt R's feelings. A few days later, both men, Jason and R, show up separately to remind Victoria of their respective invitations. When they realize their plans are scheduled for the same time, Jason figures out that Victoria has been seeing another man all along. Deeply upset, Jason asks her why she even volunteered for the project. Victoria tells the truth. She had feelings for him and joined the project just to get closer to him. After their conversation, Jason goes to Chris and apologizes for not taking his warning about Victoria seriously. On the other side, Victoria visits Megan and confesses that at first, her intentions weren't genuine. She just wanted to be near Jason. While Jason is in his office, his ex-fiancée, Rachel, suddenly shows up. She found out where he lives through his mother. Rachel apologizes for leaving him and asks if they can meet at a hotel to talk and possibly rekindle their relationship. After Rachel leaves, Jason turns to Chris and asks how he knew Shelby was the right person for him. Chris replies that neither of them is perfect, but they've always worked hard to keep their love alive. On Saturday, Jason makes his decision. He turns down Rachel's invitation and goes to the church concert instead. Meanwhile, Victoria decides to go to the company party with R. They arrive at the hotel in a luxury car, and R introduces her to his boss. But during the event, R says things about Victoria that aren't true. His lies make her reflect on her past behavior, and she realizes she no longer wants to be part of that kind of lifestyle. So, she leaves the party early, walking away from R, because she's come to understand that what she truly wants in life is honesty. Some time later, Victoria finally attends the church concert, hoping to see Jason and talk to him. She's nervous but hopeful that he might forgive her for pretending to be a genuine volunteer, when in truth, she only joined the project to be close to him. As she enters the sanctuary, she starts scanning the crowd, looking for Jason. But Jason, feeling a bit overwhelmed and tired, decides to step outside the auditorium for a few minutes. Meanwhile, one of the pastors notices Victoria walking back and forth and invites her to come on stage and share her testimony. Victoria steps up and begins to speak. Jason, standing in the church hallway, accidentally hears her voice and realizes she's on stage. Victoria opens up, admitting that in the past, she constantly chased after different men in search of the right partner. She confesses that she fell for someone named Jason and purposely volunteered for the construction project just to get close to him. She speaks with honesty and remorse, explaining how she regrets her actions, because while the other volunteers were helping out with sincere intentions, she had used the opportunity for her own personal agenda. After her speech ends, Jason rushes back into the sanctuary to find her. But by then, Victoria has gone to the restroom to dry off her soaked clothes. She had gotten caught in the rain earlier. Jason looks around but can't find her. Moments later, Megan walks into the restroom, looking for Victoria. She tells her that Jason was actually at the event and heard everything she said. Megan also thanks Victoria sincerely, explaining that thanks to her encouragement and support, she finally found the confidence to get closer to what, and now it turns out that Wood has feelings for her too. Since her clothes are still damp from the rain, Victoria decides to head home, despite Megan urging her to stay. After a while, Jason asks Megan if she's seen Victoria. Megan tells him she just left and is likely heading toward the parking lot. Due to the heavy rain and the crowded parking area, Jason struggles for a moment to find her. But luckily, he spots her car just as it's starting to pull out. He runs up, stops her, and apologizes for not trusting her in the beginning. Now that he's heard her heartfelt confession in front of everyone, he tells her he's ready to open his heart to her again. A few days later, all the volunteers gather to welcome Elena and her 2 young daughters into their new home. In that moment, Joy, Victoria's sister, tells her how proud she is. Not only has Victoria helped someone she didn't even know, but she's also found a man who truly belongs by her side. I hope you enjoyed this introduction. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give me your support with likes and comments.